Yesterday, I interviewed Heather Pratt of the University of Windsor, which is a partner in Canada's first Automobility Hub. Today, I'm going to be talking to Peter Wawrow, who's the Director of Research, Innovation, and Entrepreneurship of St. Clair College, also in Windsor, and also a partner in the Hub. So welcome to the interview, Peter.
Thanks for having me.
Look, I'm really interested in this idea that there is a facility in Canada where entrepreneurs or startup companies can come and not only prototype an electric vehicle, whether it's a scooter or maybe a small electric truck or a car, but also do small production runs. Could you explain how that facility actually works?
Sure. This is, as you said, a brand new thing in Canada. It was modeled after an organization. Actually, the organization is based in Germany, and they're spreading to different parts of the world. In Canada, Windsor being one of them. So there's the hub is essentially built into two separate entities. One is the Automobility Enterprises, and the other is the Automobility Research Group. So as a research group, being the college and the university, we're basically doing the research around automobility type of ideas. And the enterprises group, they're the ones that do small production runs. So essentially, they're looking at contract manufacturing, where they're going to really focus on commercial fleets and build those commercial fleets, at least in the EV space. And then we can supplement that by adding on to research around the manufacturing aspects of it, or the technology that goes into those fleets.
So let's see how this might work in practice. So let's say that I was a CEO of a startup company, and I came to you and said, Peter, who have you got on your staff in the college and the university that, they're researchers, they're academics, and they know this technology and so on. Can they help me design a small specialty niche market electric vehicle? Is that how this would work?
Somewhat. So we're at the very early stages of this. And so we're building our capacity right now. We're looking at developing new programs around this, so we can have talent that can be educated around this. We're also building the structure around how do we target students and community members so that they can be funneled into this process. So that they can have those innovative ideas, and we can foster them and grow them, or incubate them, at least in our college facilities. And then as they grow bigger, then they can go to the ramp-up factory and start manufacturing those ideas.
Now, so once we get the idea, the vehicle designed, then it works with the enterprise group, and they would bring in things like finance and other kinds of inputs that are required to make the prototype or the small run.
Yeah, correct. So the enterprise group is really the engineering and consulting arm of the Automobility Hub. So they will be doing a lot of the manufacturing aspects of it and bringing their expertise in order to make that happen. And on the research side of things, we might not necessarily be building or designing vehicles. We might be designing parts or maybe sensors or new technologies that go into those vehicles. And so ours is really looking at the research side of things, and the ramp-up factory, which is essentially the Automobility Enterprises Group. That's where the manufacturing comes in.
Now, I've interviewed other EV analysts, and I guess all of the manufacturers now are moving to a standard specially designed electric vehicle platform. But basically, it's like a roller skate, they call it. And they're also, I understand, willing to lease out or sell of these platforms to specialty makers, niche manufacturers. And it struck me that that's a tremendous opportunity for startup companies, small companies in places like Windsor to say, okay, we're going to buy 1,000 of these platforms, and we're going to make, say, an electric truck for a particular type of trade or type of contractor. And it seems to me that if that then marries or joins up the entrepreneur with the technology from the OEM and your facility, and it brings it all together to make that vehicle happen.
Yeah, absolutely. And in fact, the Automobility Enterprises Group, what they're hoping to do and what they're planning on doing is having a very flexible manufacturing environment. And so the skateboard concept you mentioned is one example of making that very flexible. So they could have a run of X amount of a couple thousand vehicles, and a few months later, they might have to switch over to a different type of vehicle. So what they're wanting to do is be very, very flexible so that they can accommodate all the different types of fleet vehicles that or commercial vehicles, I should say, that they could build. And you're right, having that ecosystem of the college and the university, as well as the enterprises group, and then the larger ecosystem of the OEMs and other manufacturers around, really puts it all together and really enhances that opportunity.
Now, I understand you've got one or two partners who are from the industry. A mold company is one of them. How important is that to bring in the supply chain into this partnership?
It's very important, and it's PEM Motion, which is the German arm, the German entity of the Automobility Enterprises Group. So they always, when they set up these ramp up factories around the world, they really make sure that they engage with the local community and have a local community partner. So having our mold shop, which is based in Windsor, having them part of that is very important, because obviously they're in the community, and having that representation is going to be helpful because of the supply base that we have around here, and they can tap into that as well.
Great. And when will this facility be up and running, Peter?
So essentially, it's up and running now. So we have our first project that we're kicking off in the next month or two at the college. So that's the first project is actually going to be at the college, because we were able to facilitate some space and facilitate this project. The ramp up factory, which is part of the Automobility Enterprises Group, they have a facility, and they're just ready to go once they get some contracts for the larger projects, I should say. So essentially, we're in a position where we're ready to go, and we just need some more projects.
Can you tell me anything about this first project that you've got on your plate?
Sure, it's working with our local utilities, and what we're doing is we're taking a couple of their vehicles, their gas vehicles, and we're converting them to electric. So essentially, this is our first step, and basically we're going to establish a process for how do you convert vehicles from gas to electric. And it's going to be a great learning experience for our faculty and our students as they're going to participate in this project as well. And as we go through that, there's going to be a lot of lessons learned, and potentially ideas that come from there to enhance that vehicle even further, and then hopefully spin off some the innovation aspects within the college.
Yeah, that seems to be a fairly standard model these days. Universities spinning off startups, professors or advanced students who start these up, sometimes with the assistance of a university or college. That's the model we're talking about.
Yeah, very similar. So ideally, we would have that process in place, and we're working on developing that structure so that we can foster that environment of innovation, have students generate ideas, and potentially start up a company and foster that in entrepreneurship side of things through our entrepreneurship center that we already have here at the college. So as the students go through that process, then the nice thing is we have a physical space where they can actually test out and develop those ideas. And if everything works out well and it takes off, then they can transition that to the ramp up factory, which is the Automobility Enterprises.
What does it cost to set up something like this, Peter? I know that the Ontario government has put a little bit of money into this. Is this an expensive venture to get off the ground?
That's a good question. Yes, so I would say it, and I couldn't give you dollar figures, but having the facility, so we had to reallocate some a program essentially to make that space available. So just the facility itself would be a cost, and then getting equipment in there to get it going. So that's definitely a cost. And then ideally having the people in place, so the faculty members or researchers that could work with the students and work with the community on these projects. One of the things that our department does is we look for grant funding So that could help offset a lot of the costs for the research projects. But then the Automobility Enterprises Group, obviously that cost is probably magnified even more because they're building essentially a ramp up factory or contract manufacturing. So there's going to be a lot more expense with those folks as well.
If I'm not mistaken, I think the Ontario government provided a $2 million grant initially and then another $5 million grant on top of that. So that at least gives us an idea of what the magnitude of the cost involved. Well, Peter, thank you very much for this and good luck with it. I think this is a fascinating project. And I think this is something that, other parts of Canada should look at it as well. It seems like it could be a very effective model for harnessing innovation and helping Canada develop a electric vehicle manufacturing industry. So thank you very much for this.
Great. Thank you.